Louis crosses his arms in deep thought, realizing his overpowered dragon talent is basically drawing death flags everywhere, armed with memories of his previous life. He vows not to die like a weak extra. He determines that mastering both magical attributes and physical martial arts simultaneously is his ultimate golden key to staying alive. Born as a rare dragon blessed with four rare elemental attributes, Louis flips through ancient manual books to absorb knowledge and start training immediately. He breaks down his extreme exercise routine, planning to master elemental manipulation and physical martial arts at the same time to ensure his survival against upcoming deadly threats. While Louis ponders whether to prioritize rare elemental spellcasting or body enhancement skills, heavy footsteps echo right behind him. He turns around to see his giant dragon father approaching with a massive tray, interrupting his serious strategy session with a legendary gourmet feast that immediately makes the young dragon drool with uncontrollable excitement. His dad Genloser delivers a magical banquet to boost his energy, serving up colorful elemental treats like icy blue crystal potions and chewy hydrogen stems. These extreme potions contain raw magic that would vaporize normal mortals instantly. But Louis' permanent dragon heart converts nature's wild mana safely into pure personal power, without explosive side effects. Louis dives face first into the magical feast, gobbling down thunderbird hearts and wine jellyfish to rapidly level up his stat points. However, after barely 1 minute of eating like a starved beast, his heavy eyelids droop dramatically, causing his caring father to assume the exhausted little dragon simply needs a nice long afternoon nap. Louis passes out completely beside his favorite plush toy Toto while his father gently carries him back to bed. As the room grows deathly quiet, a mysterious dark purple energy orb suddenly materializes out of thin air, spinning rapidly in midair until it morphs into a deadly metallic fork that drops onto the wooden floor. The sinister purple mist slithers out of the bedroom undetected, leaving the dangerous trap resting silently right beside the sleeping dragon's bed. Louis remains completely fast asleep, blissfully unaware that the webtoon's narrative universe is actively spawning ridiculous death traps inside his private bedroom while he loudly snores away the quiet night. Morning light hits the room as Louis opens his groggy eyes, instantly confused about how he ended up in bed, hearing his father Genloser calling out for breakfast. He rolls out of his sheets and gets ready to jump out of bed, but his tiny claws lose traction on the slick floorboards. Louis slips violently off the bed edge, crashing face first onto the hard floor in utter embarrassment. He opens his eyes only to freeze in sheer horror, staring at a sharp metallic fork stuck upright inches from his skull. Realizing he almost got Final Destination by a random piece of falling kitchen cutlery overnight, trying to figure out why he tripped, Louis discovers his beloved stuffed toy Toto tied to his tail, torn completely in half with stuffing leaking everywhere. Devastated by the tragic sight, he drags the mutilated plushie straight to the dining table, where his father Genloser kindly offers to stitch it back together while Louis eats. Suddenly, Louis gasps in sheer panic as he snaps awake back inside his bed, realizing his memory just glitched out violently, hearing his dad call for breakfast yet again. He rushes downstairs to find Toto fully repaired, baffled by this terrifying time loop sensation. He asks Genloser why his mind keeps blacking out lately. His father Genloser pauses thoughtfully before delivering shocking news about dragon biology. He reveals that growing dragons must undergo two major slumber phases to process their massive magical energy. Louis' constant sudden fainting spells simply mean his very first natural sleeping cycle is approaching much faster than expected, signaling an imminent long rest. Louis asks how long this dragon sleep lasts, only for Genloser to casually drop a bombshell, roughly 1 entire century. Horrified that sleeping for 100 years leaves him totally vulnerable to assassination, Louis panics, screams at the unfair plot, and bolts back to his room with a scarf wrapped around his head. Determined to beat the system, Louis drafts a strict anti-sleep survival strategy inside his room. He resolves to skip all meals to avoid food comas, avoid warm showers that induce relaxation, maximize continuous physical movement, and completely stay away from comfortable beds, vowing to fight off this century-long slumber at all costs. After a few brutal hours of fighting fatigue, a heavily dazed Louis wanders down the hallway like a brainless zombie. Suddenly, his father Genloser approaches carrying a giant plate of hot nutritious food, urging him to eat up. But Louis screams in terror and sprints away from his father as fast as his legs can carry him. Louis barricades himself inside the royal library, catching his breath after dodging his dad's aggressive feeding attempts. He frantically searches through ancient medical archives for forbidden tricks to stay awake, taking extreme notes while constantly telling himself that dropping his guard for even 1 second means game over for his entire life. The manual suggests standing up, pinching thighs, eating hot peppers, and avoiding reading books, but Lou reads that last rule while literally reading a book. His heavy eyes slide shut as drowsiness overpowers his body. He slaps his own face hard to stay awake, but his vision slowly fades completely into total darkness. Louis suddenly snaps awake to his father Generaloser gently shaking his shoulders, screaming that he only dozed off for 5 minutes. However, Generaloser pops party poppers and cheerfully congratulates his son, revealing that Louis actually slept through the entire century and they are currently celebrating his epic 100th birthday party today. 100 years ago, Father Generaloser searched high and low for his missing son before finding little dragon Louis fast asleep on the library floor, smiling gently at the exhausted baby dragon holding an open book. Generaloser tucked him safely into bed, tucking him in while wishing him sweet dreams and a peaceful rest tonight. The very next day, Generaloser was sitting quietly in his study room writing notes when a loud, violent crash suddenly shattered the peaceful silence, panicking instantly over his son's safety. Generaloser sprinted directly toward Louis's bedroom, fearing the absolute worst had happened to his precious sleeping dragon hatchling during his long sleep. Generaloser gasped as he found poor Louis lying flat on the floor underneath his collapsed wooden bed frame. Luckily, the sleepy dragon was still breathing and talking in his sleep. Inspecting the room for intruders, Generaloser was utterly baffled to discover that the rock-solid, expensive purple wood bed legs had somehow snapped in half entirely on their own. Over the next 60 years, over 4,000 bizarre assassination attempts targeted the sleeping dragon without cause, refusing to let his son die. Father Generaloser cast massive magical defensive barriers across the entire dragon estate, willingly sacrificing his own natural lifespan and giving up good sleep just to shield his defenseless sleeping child from unseen dark magic. Generaloser pondered how enemies could locate them since most mortals had completely forgotten that dragons even existed in this world. One quiet night, as he walked through the gloomy estate hallway, a terrifying explosion suddenly rocked the mansion, forcing the vigilant dragon father to instantly draw his massive magical power for battle against dark forces. Enchanted armor knight statues lining the long corridor suddenly came alive, swinging sharp weapons as they charged ruthlessly toward Louis's sleeping quarters. Furious that cursed magic threatened his helpless son once again, Generaloser unleashed a blinding domain expansion spell, completely blinding the possessed statues and trapping them inside absolute pitch darkness forever. Unable to navigate the endless darkness, the cursed knight statues stood completely helpless as Generaloser obliterated every single one into tiny useless stone pebbles. Standing over the broken marble debris, he panted heavily, swearing an unbreakable fatherly oath to protect his sleeping dragon child against any cosmic forces, divine curses, or evil gods alike. Generaloser remembered his grand elder explaining that overpowered geniuses always attract terrifying world curses because fate itself envies their godly talent. Learning that the legendary first Dragon King suffered the exact same cursed destiny, Generaloser clenched his huge fists tightly, fiercely resolving to defy fate itself to guarantee his son's survival at any cost. Fast forward back to the present time, and newly awakened Louis stands right in front of his bedroom mirror, admiring his slightly older dragon reflection. He pouts annoyingly at his minor growth spurt after a century-long slumber, but feels extremely relieved that his tiny dragon head is still attached to his body after all. That time, Louis recalls his endless death flags from 100 years ago, completely confused about how he magically survived a century of sleeping without getting assassinated. Suddenly, Father Generaloser walks by his bedroom door and warmly calls him downstairs for dinner, prompting Louis to notice his father looks significantly older and visibly exhausted after all these years. Feeling a wave of deep gratitude, Louis vows to be a good, obedient dragon hatchling from now on. He trots quickly down the hallway after his father, complaining humorously about his empty stomach while begging his dad to get more rest instead of working so hard, totally unaware of the thousands of assassination battles fought for him. Years fly by as the scene shifts to a peaceful mountain forest beneath a towering ancient tree. A handsome white-haired boy vigorously swings a heavy wooden sword, unleashing massive shockwaves that slice through the crisp mountain air, sweating heavily after His intense daily workout, the young master turns her on as his loyal servant calls his name, revealing Louis in his powerful human form. The personal maid hands over a soft white towel to the handsome young master. Louis grabs the towel and slowly lifts it off his servant's head, only to reveal a tiny, glowing creature floating in midair. It turns out his loyal personal maid is actually a microscopic starlight fairy named Finn, bowing politely before her holy dragon master. Louis groans in annoyance, asking Finn to drop the overly formal master title since a whole century has already passed. However, Finn strictly refuses, proudly insisting that serving superior dragons is the absolute highest honor for fairy royalty. Louis merely chuckles at the word honor, drifting back into his chaotic memories of how they first met years ago. Flashing back to the quiet days right after his first long hibernation, little dragon Louis was peacefully reading inside his room when a strange noise caught his attention. Walking over to inspect the suspicious giant gift box sitting on the floor, he bent down closely, hearing weird shuffling sounds echoing from deep inside the mysterious package box. Curious about the weird noises, Louis leaned closer to inspect the massive present. Suddenly, the lid burst open and a tiny winged creature flew out screaming joyfully about finally breathing fresh air. Startled out of his mind by the sudden explosion, Louis panicked, instinctively swinging his heavy dragon tail around in pure self-defense during the chaos. Louis's massive tail swatted the airborne intruder right out of the sky, sending her crashing hard into the stone wall like an annoying giant fly, as the dizzy fairy slid down upside down. Louis poked her dazed body using a calligraphy brush pen, wondering why on earth his father sent him a buzzing living bug inside a giant gift box. Shaking off her severe dizziness, the tiny winged creature straightened her messy clothes and flew upward. She bowed dramatically, introducing herself as noble royalty from the Starlight Fairy clan, declaring with grand enthusiasm that she was personally sent to bring the holy dragon hatchling endless joy, luxury, and entertainment throughout his glorious long childhood journey. Finn dramatically unveiled her giant gift, revealing a luxurious, fully equipped magical dollhouse disguised as a dress-up playset. She proudly boasted that her genderless fairy body could effortlessly pull off every single outfit inside, including rare limited edition demon and celestial costumes, pitching herself as the ultimate living, breathing action figure toy for dragon hatchlings. Louis stared speechlessly at the terrifying living toy set, completely weirded out by the awkward concept of playing house with a real sentient fairy, refusing to play with creepy girly dolls. He immediately knocked over the expensive set, demanding an explanation from his father Yahello about why he was gifted such a disturbing childhood present in the first place. Yahello defended his choice, claiming the fairy dress-up set was ranked #1 among young dragon hatchlings, and impressed by popular trend lists. Louis insisted on returning the creepy living dollhouse immediately. Upon hearing she was getting kicked out, Finn burst into heavy tears, grabbing Louis's tail and begging desperately to stay as his humble servant. Finn sobbed hysterically, promising to handle all laundry and cleaning chores if he spared her from exile. She explained that serving dragons brings unmatched glory, noting how the legendary first fairy king was actually the first dragon king's childhood toy. Moved by her persistent begging, Louis finally gave in and accepted the 800-year-old fairy. Finn proved to be surprisingly useful thanks to her natural spatial magic talent, acting like unlimited pocket inventory. She pulled advanced magic textbooks straight out of her subspace storage and handed them to Louis, encouraging her young master to master advanced mana separation and manifestation. Eager to assist his intense magic training routine every single day, Finn effortlessly summoned a full table layout packed with delicious gourmet meals for Louis to enjoy while studying his ancient spell books. Louis smiled warmly, realizing having a loyal spatial assistant around was actually pretty convenient. Suddenly, violent thunder echoed across the sky, darkening the horizon as massive bolts of blue lightning began crashing down all around them. Louis stood calmly amidst the howling storm, extending his arms straight into the sky. A dark metallic bracelet on his wrist holding a thunder elemental stone glowed brightly, catching a direct lightning strike and safely absorbing the raw electrical energy, proving he had already been struck by sky lightning hundreds of times during his extreme wilderness training sessions. Finn watched in awe as Louis explained the mechanics of unstable low-grade thunderstones, which safely convert raw lightning into portable magic power. Noticing his current stone was completely filled to maximum capacity, Louis quickly unclasped the glowing gem to swap it out for a fresh empty crystal before the intense electrical feedback overloaded his magical wristband. Right as Liu popped out the full elemental stone, a colossal bolt of rogue lightning plunged straight toward his undefended body. Finn screamed in absolute terror as the blinding plasma beam threatened to vaporize her master. At the exact moment of impact, Louis activated a high-tier spatial distortion field, bending the fabric of space to swallow the lethal lightning strike hull. Finn gasped in total disbelief. Realizing her young master had already mastered high-level spatial manipulation magic at an absurd age, convincing her that she was witnessing the rise of a legendary god. Louis checked his stats, noting his spatial magic reached Tier 1, space-time hit Tier 3, and his mind attribute remained at Tier 5. Glad that his spatial shields could now block unexpected assassination attempts effortlessly, he ordered Finn to bring him another advanced spellbook. Determined to master all 4 elemental attributes and survive whatever fate threw his way,